What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to the video. Today I'm gonna be going over 3 things I wish I knew before getting into this hobby. And oh yeah, before we get into this video, make sure you hit that like button and make sure you subscribe and turn that post notification on so you get when I be posting. Before we get into the things that I wish I would have knew, kind of like a little backstory. When I first got into getting these fish, I think everybody pretty much got the similar story. You know, you're a kid and your family goes to like a carnival or something and you end up getting a fish that way. But I know me, growing up, you know, I used to always go to ditches, creeks, any place where it was water, and I always catch like tadpoles, pretty much anything that was living in the water. So that's how I really got into keeping fish. But it would all be like native fish here in Texas, like bluegill, sunfish. I even killed bass before, catfish. If you go back on my videos, probably to like 2019 or the beginning of 2020, I think, I did have 2 bass in 1 tank. But hey, I used to keep all native fish. I done kept pretty much anything native here to Texas. Number one thing that I wish I would have known before I got into this hobby is about the water, how the water works. You know, like when you pull water from the tap, or when you put it from the sink or the water hose, or anywhere you get your water from to put in your tank. I wish I would have knew about the dechlorinators and nitrates, all the things that come into play when putting a tank together, because I can't tell you how many fish I killed growing up because I didn't know how the water works. I didn't know how the cycle worked or anything like that. So whenever I would get fish, I would just throw the fish in the tank and hopefully they'll live. I know some of the native fish that I used to keep was used to like crazy water conditions, you know, come from puddles and stuff, it rains and stuff like that. So it's like they'll have a better chance of living than the store-bought fish. When I would put it in there, it would die. And then even after they started dying off like that, I even went to putting the tank up and letting the water sit for a whole day. I would let it sit for a day thinking like, okay, chlorine finna evaporate out of there and then I'm gonna be good. The water is good. I don't have to do nothing else to the water. The fish is gonna be good and live a long life. Well, after that started happening, I did get a better survival rate, but fish was still constantly dying on me. Like I said, I had a lot of fish die because I did not know how cycling worked. I did not know how any of the water testing or nothing like that worked. And this is just me when I first started getting into the hobby. Like when I first started, like I'm talking about when I was way younger, like when I first, you know, was keeping fish and everything else. That is something that I did not know at the time, you know, that I wish I would have knew now. Something I would tell my old self then is like, hey, you need to do more research on this particular thing right here, you know, so you'll have a better survival rate of your fish. Number 2, my number 2 thing that I wish I would have knew before getting into this hobby is filtration and oxygen. Like I said, when I was growing up, you know, I would go to the stores and buy these kits and buy, you know, massive amounts of filtration. You know, I would just buy things that I wasn't really needing. I was spending so much money on stuff that I didn't even really need to start a tank, you know, and I ended up losing a lot of money that way, you know, working my summers more in yards and things like that just to get stuff and not end up working. So like one example is I used to have a 30-gallon tank, and this 30-gallon tank, I put a 10-gallon tank filter on it, just like, okay, this is all I need. Like, and then, you know, I went to Walmart and got one of those little air stones that you plug into, and it's like light blue, and you put it on your gravel and the bubbles start coming up out of it. Well, me thinking at the time, I thought that was all I need for me to, that was a successful tank. I'm talking about no heater or nothing in there. All I thought is if you have these certain things right here, the tank is doing good. Like I said, I didn't find out about heaters either, you know, so I think I was kind of okay in that part because like bass and other things, long as the house didn't get that cold, it's like they was okay, you know. When it got like down to 60 or something, you know, they're sluggish, they might stay at the bottom, but other than that, my mother or my father didn't keep the house like really cold, so you know, I think they was good for the most part, but I didn't even know about the heater and the watts that you need so that the heater could, you know, heat up the whole tank. But like I said, I had a 30-gallon tank. I had a 30-gallon tank with a 10-gallon filter on them, and the filter I had was a cheap Walmart on the back filter. I don't have nothing against on the back filters or anything like that. I think they're great. You know, I've still used some of them, but I prefer not to. Once I got introduced to the sponge, I really fell in love with the sponge. Only time I like to use an only back filter is if I'm trying to clear a tank or something is wrong and I need to disturb the tank greatly. Normally if I keep something like a big fish, or like if I got like this 10-gallon back here in the back on this side, it has an on the back filter. I had a lot of plants in it, you know, in my recently videos. I just chopped that tank down and destroyed the whole ecosystem to that tank, and it has an on the back filter. And so when I had this on the back filter, I would buy the filters that come in the little package every week, and I'd be like, I guess this is what people do when they get the on the back filters, is every week. One thing that I stopped doing is buying those filters. To me, and this is my personal belief, I don't clean them. I think when you clean them, you knock all the bacteria and everything out of those filters. So I want to keep all that bacteria in there in case, like, you know, when I do a water change, a heavy water change, like 75%, or even I might drain the whole tank. Whenever I kick that filter back on, I won't have any problem with something in there crashing because I still have that filter with all that bacteria in the back there. So that's another thing that I stopped doing. Like I said, I really don't have any problem with the on the back filters. It's just I started getting into fish like the guppies, the livebearers, all the livebearers who would lay these babies and get sucked up right into these filters, and it's just too much for like the fish that I was keeping, like the platies and stuff. It's too much flow on them, and I had no type of way to control that flow. I think some on the back filters you can control how much the flow coming through or whatnot, but that's why I kind of when you got livebearers and stuff like that, you kind of want to use a sponge filter, because when you use that on the back filter, the babies are going to get sucked up into that tank. And it's just like now I've got into, you know, even trying to make my own filters, like, you know, the DIY bucket filters. I have one on my 10-gallon, I mean not my 10-gallon, I have one on my 40-gallon breeder, and I also have one on my 100-gallon. And they work great. You know, I see people use them on ponds, indoor ponds or outdoor ponds. You know, they even go to the big trash can, and I just wish I would have did more research into that versus me just going and buying a filter from Walmart and being like, okay, throw this on the back filter on, and hey, that's all I need. You know, my baby's still gonna be alive if I have livebearers or anything in there, and nah, it didn't work that way. Last but not least is cleanliness. So when I used to have these tanks, the way I would clean is you would drain all the water out and basically like clean everything like dishes. You would take the rocks out, rinse them out. You would take the artificial plants, artificial woods, or whatever you had in our caves, and you would scrape them till they are back to the original color that they had. And I had to learn to quit doing that, because when I put them back in, you would get like a white algae bloom or something like that, and it's basically like you just crashing the tank. Like whatever was in there, the bacteria and everything, you're just completely wiping it out. And that was one thing that I was doing wrong. Like I said, I had a lot of artificial stuff. I never used to. I think until beginning of last year, that's when I quit buying artificial things. I don't have nothing artificial in my tanks. I try to go either with plants or I try to go with wood. Either one, or I try to have both of them in the tank. I don't try to put nothing else in there, you know, like artificial. My betas that I have currently, I remember I had got one. This was like some years back, and I had some fake plants in there, and the beta would go and they would tear his fins. You know, I didn't know anything about the silk plants that you can get, and that was just, I don't know. I don't have a problem with, you know, I've seen some beautiful tanks, like one of my LFSs I go to, they have, all their tanks have artificial plants. Some of them got, you know, natural plants, you know, duckweed, mosses and everything like that, grass, but they also have a lot of fake plants in their tanks, and I don't see anything wrong with that. I just think that fish are really happy when you have those plants in there. You know, it kind of keep the nitrates out, and it kind of keep everything in the tank well balanced. And it's also like guppy grass. I know a lot of my tanks have guppy grass in it, and the reason why I like that guppy grass is, one, it get a frost somewhere to hide, you know, if I have a live barrier in that tank. And then second, it's really good at pulling the nitrates out, and guppy grass grow fast. When I tell you, every day I can sit there and watch guppy grass, and the next day I come in, it's like it done grew an inch and a half or something. Like it really grows that fast, and the only fertilizer that I put in the water is XL. XL is really good. I would recommend that to anybody who is trying to go anything like a plant that's a floater plant that don't have to have like CO2 or anything like that. XL is basically like liquid CO2. It's really good. You know, you hit it 3 or 4 times a week with it, and your plants will thrive. I haven't had a problem with it. I used to have hornwort, but I had a falling out with hornwort. I don't know, it got all over my tank and everything, but I'm soon to be trying hornwort again, and I'm gonna see how it go this time. But this time I'm gonna do a small amount. I know it grow fast, but I'm gonna try it again. But as I used to crash all my tanks, cleaning them and stuff like that, and I used to even wipe the glass down, and you know, it was just too much. I would get in there, put my fish back in, and they'd be so stressed out. No movement in the tank. They all sitting at the bottom of the tank. And it was because I, you know, went in there and cleaned them like it was dishes and killed all the bacteria off of the tanks. You know, so if that was something that I wish I would have never done, because I would have never learned from it now. But if I could have told myself then, like, hey, that don't work, don't try that out, that'll be one thing that I would redo. Because cleaning the tank like that, you know, yeah, you want to clean the glass off. You know, if you got like hair algae, anything like that, you want to clean it off. These are my 3 things. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys in the next one.